Well, hi, I'm Laura, and welcome to the channel. Well, today I'm drinking out of my New Orleans mug. Actually, it looks more like a bowl. Just kind of missing New Orleans. I spend quite a bit of time there, but this is the first year that I have missed Mardi Gras in probably a decade. Just couldn't get there this year. I guess it turned out for the best because I know the weather was a real problem and a lot of the parades had to be either canceled or rescheduled or modified. But if you went to Mardi Gras this year, drop a comment. I'd love to hear what it was like for you this year. I really, really missed it. Well, today's topic. In our last video, we talked about the group dynamic. What happens when you're part of a social organization, a volunteer group, maybe it's your company. What happens when it's time for you to leave, when the group dynamic has changed and it's time for you to move on? How do you do it without losing friends? And I will tell you, leaving any group of your own will is tough enough. But today we're going to talk about when you're leaving the group. You don't want to leave the group, but you feel like women in the group are pushing you out. So, what happens when a group is trying to ghost you? And it sounds easy on the surface. I mean, my initial reaction would be, well, just leave. And this question came from one of the members of our community. And I'm glad she asked the question because it really made me think about how hard it is to walk away. So, in our last video, we talked about when you're making the decision to leave. And sometimes you don't get to just fade into the background. Sometimes you do. But there are times, I shared the story of my Bunko group, where they depend on you to show up. There are 12 spots to play a game. You may be playing bridge, you may be playing canasta, mahjong. I mean, groups get together to play all kinds of different games. Um, when you don't show up, they really can't play, or it gets all confusing with like the empty person at the table. If you know, you know. I so if it's hard to walk away from a group, why is it hard to walk away? Well, there are a couple reasons. The first one, as I mentioned, is they may depend on you. Maybe you've signed up to be on a committee. Maybe January or February is your month to bring the snack. And then you what? You drop out and you just don't show up and they're on their own. So one of the things we talked about was leaving with class, right? Letting someone know that you're leaving, fibbing if you have to, something else has come up, your schedule just doesn't allow anymore, whatever. But you don't want to leave and make enemies because oftentimes we join groups and get to know specific certain people in the group that become maybe not close friends, but friends, friendly acquaintances, people we look forward to seeing when we participate in that event. So you're not just giving up a group, you are giving up oftentimes the people that you really enjoy seeing in that group. Now, we've talked about it before. When you leave a group, not everyone you were friendly with is going to continue to maintain a friendship with you outside of the group. We've all been there. We have left jobs where we thought our buddy who we worked with for 15 years and went to lunch with every Friday was going to want to continue to go to lunch with us every Friday. And that, yes, over the years we got to know each other better and shared vacations, shared what we felt comfortable sharing. And so after you leave the job, you go out to lunch once, twice, three times, and then guess what? No more texts, no more calls. Because what you really had in common, what anchored you together, was that position, that organization, that social group, that volunteer group. You were anchored by commonality, and once that commonality is gone, a lot of friendships don't translate, they don't transition to just a casual friendship that has nothing to do with that group or organization. So take that thinking, and what happens if we flip it on its side? What happens if we are in a group and we've been committed to that group, maybe for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and the women in the group start to change? We're still pretty happy. We show up, we sit at the table with the gals. That's Shannon, my border collie. She has been sneezing all day. Shannon. The neighbors behind us are blowing their leaves, and the dust in the air is unbelievable. And the border collies have been running up and down the fence barking at the blower. So she's got quite a bit of dust up her snout. So excuse the sneezing. So we're in a group and we enjoy it, and we keep going back because we've gotten to know people in the group. Maybe we are committed to the cause. Maybe we love playing bridge and, can't wait to get to our game. But I think if you drill down on any group that you give your time to, you find that there are people in that group that you truly enjoy spending time with, and you look forward to going. And as we talked about last time, when that dynamic changes and you no longer are excited to go to the group, it does take a little thought and preparation to step back and walk away, because oftentimes you're giving up more than, just what brings the group together. But what happens when the group changes and they don't want you anymore? Now, the new president of the group organization, the new boss, isn't going to stand in front of the group and say, hey, Laura, we just don't like you anymore. Could you move on down the road? No, unfortunately, people can never sit down with us one-on-one and tell us there's a problem. They have to push us out quietly while gossiping to the other members of their little club and hoping that it doesn't get back to us. But we all know that it always gets back to us, because unfortunately there are women, who have good motivation, and they want to pull you close and say, hey, listen, so-and-so didn't like what you said. You pushed back on this. The worst is when you raise your hand and say, well, we've never done it like that in the past. Oh boy, what a way to make the new gals unhappy with you. So whatever you did, whoever you rubbed wrong in the group has now made you the target. So there are women that will pull you close, and they think they're doing you a favor by letting you know that, hey, things have changed and people aren't really excited about you being part of the group anymore. And then there are the women that want to cause you discomfort. They want to be the one that tells you that others don't like you. And for some of them, it makes them feel like, well, I'm only telling you this because I'm in the group, and, I don't want you to be hurt or to find out, accidentally. So let me be the one to break it to you. But we've all been there, you've lived long enough. I think you've been there where a group is making it pretty apparent to you that they no longer want you in the group. I think that's a lot of the reason that we refer to some women as mean girls, because I've watched dozens of social organizations over the years in my own area, greater county area, where new leadership comes in and wants things their way. They bring in their lieutenants, and they make every effort to push out the people that were there before them. Often they go to really deep extremes in trying to make someone feel uncomfortable, so they just won't come back, so they don't have to deal with them. Then they move on, and it's all about them. And who cares what went on 10 years ago or 8 years ago or 7 years ago, or how did the club get to where it is today? Who cares? I'm going to climb up on the back of those that came before me, and then I'm going to tell them to get lost. It's that old adage of, I'm going to climb the ladder to the top, and when I get to the top, I'm going to claim my turf, and I'm pulling the ladder up so that no one can follow up behind me. And mean girls do a really good job of that. But there wouldn't be mean girls if there weren't women willing to be their lieutenants. The woman who's willing to come to you and tell you, they just don't like you anymore. And they usually won't be that blunt, but we know what they're saying. And it's funny that one of the meanest women I ever knew, if I look back on how she operates, that's exactly what she does. She targets your friends or your friendly acquaintances. And she picks them off one by one by trying to turn them against you. And I'm not saying she tries to turn your close, good friends against you, because that's usually a little more difficult. They're not willing to put that much work into it. But they make sure that they find the women who are willing to go with them because now they have the power or perceived popularity. And the cost of being part of that group, of being on the in group of the mean girl, is to turn your back, to ghost the woman who used to be a friendly acquaintance, someone who you socialized with over the years. And the meanest woman that I ever personally had any dealings with was a master. And I think they are masters at it, right? They're masters at it. They know how to scare weaker women into turning on their friends. And quite honestly, when someone snaps back at them, they run. They can't handle it. But for a lot of women who want to be in, they want to be part of that tight social circle that is running whatever the organization is, they're willing to do the bidding of the mean girl. They're willing to turn on whoever they get told to turn on. Even if it's someone you've known for 10 years or 15 years, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all about being in and rising to the top with the person who now has taken over. And if you step back and you look at that person who is now in charge of pushing you out, they played the game all along. They probably befriended you at some point when you were the person leading the group, organizing events, holding a position of leadership. They use you, they climb on your back until they get to the next step, and then they just kick you over. They have no need. So how do we deal with a situation where we know we're getting pushed out? We may be the target of a mean girl and her clique. The dynamics of the group may have changed to the point where, they just make it clear to us that we're not on the same page as them, and so they don't want us around anymore. They don't want to listen to any different voice, any different opinion. They don't want to be challenged, right? Because they're the new gal in town and it's their way or the highway. It's easy to say, I'm just going to walk away. And I don't know that you really have a choice. We don't have enough time to go places where we're not wanted. And if I'm going to fight a battle, I'm going to fight a battle for something that I truly, truly care about. Now, if you were brought together by a cause, a shared interest, don't think that you can't go and start your own group. Start small. Just get a couple of people together. And I will recommend you don't go poaching members of the other organization. Eventually, people will come. I remember years and years ago, there was a group that did volunteer work, mothers and sons, and as the leadership of the group changed, they started being very particular about who they let into the group. And what I came to find out later, it was two women that wanted to handpick, and they were blackballing certain people. And so what a group of moms did, because they believed in the cause, is they went and they started their own group. They said the hell with them. And the new group has turned out to be something incredible. Now, gosh, it's been 10, 11, 12 years since this happened, 10 years. And the new group is going strong. I think they are bigger. I certainly hear a lot more about them than I do of the old group. And the funny thing is, the mean women who blackballed people because they weren't good enough or they weren't the right kind of mother, the right kind of son, whatever, they've moved on. They don't give a darn anymore. They ruined the organization to some extent. It certainly gave it a bit of a black eye for a few years, but they moved on. Their boys grew up and graduated and went off, and those women could have cared less about the damage that they did. And there is a pendulum in every organization. So know that stepping back because you're not wanted, don't give them the satisfaction of walking away sad and wearing your heart on your sleeve and maybe sharing with members of the group what happened. I'd zip my lip. I would walk away. I would start a new group or find another group that has a similar interests to what I was doing. I would join that new group. I would go all in. I would give my time, give my treasure. I would show those other women by not caring about what those other women think. If you believe in a cause, if you enjoy doing something, fight for yourself. But don't waste your time and energy on people that want you gone. We all deserve better. We have a lot to give, and we should give it in the places and to the people that give the same, at least the same level of respect and common courtesy as we're giving them. It hurts. It hurts to be pushed out. We all know what that felt like when we were little girls. But mean girls aren't going anywhere. Their lieutenants are always going to empower them to have their bad behavior. And as long as their bad behavior is constantly applauded by a small group, but a scared group who doesn't want to get in their crosshairs, we're always going to have this circle of life. They rise to power, they kick out everyone that came before them, then they move on, they do the same to the next group or the same to the next group of people, the next organization, whatever the case. Well, I'd love to hear if that has ever happened to you, or have you seen it happen? Oftentimes in larger organizations, and I know it's different in a smaller group, you're going to feel the burn a lot more. But even if you only have one or two friends in that group and they are not standing up for you, if they do not have your back, then you have to move on. They're not true friends. If they are so afraid of a mean girl and her group of lieutenants that they're either trying to get in that group or trying to keep their mouth shut so that they don't get on their bad side, they're not a friend. They're not a friend. So whether it's a small group or a large group, you need to take care of yourself first. No one should have the time or the energy. And if more lieutenants were not so desperate to be in or popular because of how close they are to this mean girl, boy, we'd have a lot less problems, wouldn't we? Well, let me know how you feel about the subject. I appreciate you stopping by, and please share any topics that you would like discussed. I've got quite a list and it's growing from all of you, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the channel. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a great week.